Welcome to Grown Between Worlds, a podcast for adult children of immigrants and the people who love them. We're here to hold real conversations about identity, belonging, love, and life across cultures.
And we're committed to creating a space that feels grounding, honest, and human. Each conversation here touches on sensitive themes, which may feel deep or tender. We invite you to listen or watch at your own pace and take good care of yourself.
I'm Forouz.
And I'm Miranda. We're so glad you're on this journey with us.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the season 1 finale of Grown Between Worlds.
Season 1 finale. We're finally here, guys. We made it. Thank you for coming on this journey with us. It's been quite a whirlwind of stories and I think just collection of a lot of good insights that we heard from all of the guests, including ourselves in that season opener. But yeah, just so nice to finally be at the conclusion of season 1 after many rounds of editing and trying to figure out posting schedules. Like, we finally made it. We made it. And I think I just want to let the audience know, if you're watching or listening, that Forouz and I are actually in the same room. We're in the same country right now.
Rare opportunity.
Yeah. So season 1 conclusion episode was actually recorded in about early February.
Late February.
February.
After we had recorded all the guest episodes.
Yes. Yeah. And I am now currently in Toronto, Canada for a visit, just back for a friend's wedding. And we thought, why wouldn't we just re-record season 1 conclusion? Like, we're here, we're growing across worlds and we've reunited. So we thought, why not?
Yeah. And a lot has also happened since we recorded the finale in late February. And we've also now had the experience of actually launching the podcast and seeing how folks are reacting to it. And so we have some new thoughts and ideas of what we could be saying in a conclusion.
Yeah. Also just like a lot of good feedback, which, spoiler, we're going to be reading some of those comments that were shared with us. They will be anonymous, so don't worry if you did share your thoughts. We're not going to name drop you unless you've requested that. But yeah, just a lot of feedback, a lot of good insight. So we'll be sharing some of that information with you guys as well today.
Yeah. But to kind of like get our conversation started, I really wanted to check in with Miranda and see what are some themes that you noticed in listening to and editing season 1. Was there one that stood out to you the most, or that you kind of like heard over and over again?
Yeah, I think when you listen to something and you listen to multiple things over a period of time, you pick up on patterns and some themes that kind of pop up as you're sifting through that dialogue. And I think that the one instance or the one like piece of terminology that kept coming up again and again was code switching. Code switching and kind of like on par with not being enough. So just really trying to redefine what it means to be yourself and how you define your sense of self-worth. And then also, how do you exist with that definition and that part of yourself, while also like trying to navigate the intricacies of the new host country that you're in, code switching.
Yeah.
And then trying to stay true to yourself as well.
Yeah. And even kind of the different aspects of ourselves that we show in different situations or different communities and relationships that we are a part of. Right?
Yeah.
That code switching can kind of like also imply that piece as well.
Yeah. And I think like just you feel like you're alone, maybe like in an echo chamber. You're doing all of these things and you're having all of these lived experiences in a very isolating space. But then when I'm listening to these episodes and I'm listening to everybody say kind of the same thing, that was really surprising, because you think you're alone in something until you start talking about it with other people and then hearing how they are dealing with their approach to code switching, and then how it's different for them in different spaces, and just how they're still trying to stay true to what they believe is their true self, while also trying to, again, navigate every little journey that they're on, right? Like the immigration system, the cultural assimilation, their there's new terminology like
Mhm.
that you have to like learn. I know for Canadians we say, yeah, right? No. So it's like,
Does no one not everyone says that?
no,
Now
not
that you live in Australia?
yeah, now that I live in Australia, not everybody contradicts themselves when they agree or disagree. So that's just like, as I'm going through these episodes, I'm also applying like my own personal experiences onto them as well. So it's just been really refreshing, I would say.
Yeah.
But listening to them, I felt like I was part of that conversation. Not
Mhm.
really like a fly on the wall, but more
Mhm.
so like I was raising my hand up to be like, hey, I do this too. Like, me too. I could switch too.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, in your own experience of code switching, what does your body tend to do first before your mind has words for it, do you think?
Hmm. What does my body tend to do first? I think, like, for myself, I can get a bit tense. I get rigid in my movement, but I think that's just part of my like visual scan of the room. Like,
Mm,
how do I now need to kind of maybe adjust my body language? Do I need to reposition? Like, do I need to cross my legs? Do I need to be a bit more formal in this
mm,
space? Like, can I be a bit more relaxed or not? And then I'm thinking, like, okay, my body is rigid, but then, okay, how am I now going to converse with this individual or these group of people that I'm talking to? Because the way that I talk at home is a very different dialect of English, right?
mm.
Versus like someone that I'm not super familiar with or I'm trying to like kind of blend in with, if you will. So, yeah, I think like a rigidness and then also just assessment of like, okay, how am I going to speak to this person now?
Yeah, that makes sense, like, there's, like, a level of, like, vigilance there, like, you're a lot more calculated or maybe, like, strategic,
Yeah. I'm trying
in
to like plan ahead, right?
yeah.
Yeah. What about you? Do you find like that you also get rigid or does your body just experience something totally different?
That is a good question. I also wonder about it as someone who's, like, neurodivergent and that's realized this later in my life that I've been masking for such a long time in different ways at different times that when I think about code switching and if I think about it and look at it from the lens of, like, the immigration experience, I don't know if it's that much different than when I'm masking um, in other situations that may or may not have as much to do with the immigration experience at all. Like if I'm going into like a professional setting or even if I'm meeting like new segments of family or in-laws or whatnot. So I don't know. I think the rigidity sounds familiar. You're
Yeah.
mentioning it like the rigidity, I think, especially like in my torso and I think in my jaw
Yeah.
sounds very familiar.
I'm always like, oh, I didn't even realize I was clenching my jaw. Like, you go to the dentist and they're like, do you grind your teeth? And you're like, I guess. Like, who
Yeah.
doesn't do that?
Yeah. Yeah, I've gotten the same kind of comment or question from my dentist as well, and it's the clenching. It's kind of the clenching to stop myself from saying something that might not be appropriate for a particular situation or environment, or that might kind of like get me in trouble and that unintentionally get me in trouble, right? Because we can say things that we know are going to raise trouble.
Yeah. Or like get
So
you like, oh, an eyebrow is raised.
yes,
Like,
well,
okay.
you can sometimes make an intentional choice, but to do that, but it's really that the clenching I think comes from trying to prevent having a slippage of like accidentally
Yeah.
saying or doing something that you didn't intend.
Yeah. And I guess like, yeah, we're code switching because we're scared and we think that there will be like a negative repercussion of
Judgment or
yeah.
rejection of some kind. Yeah.
And I think that is like a really big part of growing between worlds,
Hmm.
right? Like we want to be accepted, we want to be included, but then when you're growing between literal countries and then also cultures
Hmm.
and then trying to keep pieces of those cultures alive and family traditions, like everything just becomes a spider web.
Yeah.
And I think that also plays into the whole like rigidity and then
Hmm.
also being scared to say the right or wrong thing. You could
Yeah.
be scared to say the right thing too, because it's like, I don't
Yeah.
know. You just don't know
The
what
reaction might
is
be.
yeah, the
Yeah.
reaction and how it will be accepted.
Yeah. And we also heard this from a lot of our guests who, identify as part of the queer community as well, that also played a role, that it wasn't just trying to kind of keep like or understand the spaces and the interconnections between the culture that they were born and raised in and the culture of their host country, but also um, their queer identity in one way or another, and
Yes.
and including it within their families and communities of origin and in the larger kind of host society as well. That is a different element or layer of the code switching for them. And I even think about folks that maybe have like different political viewpoints and identities compared to members of their family or people in their workplace, right? That
Yeah.
we're also doing that code switching even on that level. Like I think it's actually an experience and process that almost every human being can relate to, regardless of whether you um, have connection to immigrant communities and histories or not.
Yeah. Or even if you call it code switching or you call it something else.
Yeah, you call it masking, you call it like
Yeah.
whatever, like you call it, being mindful and careful of like, what's appropriate in different situations or expected in different situations. Yeah.
So that was I think that was the biggest thing, and just based off of conversation, it seems like code switching doesn't just exist within the immigration experience,
Mhm.
but it does exist like in everybody's lives in different ways,
Mhm.
called different things,
Mhm.
and you might not even recognize it, right? So
Yeah.
it's just the way that you're kind of approaching situations and scenarios. So just something very interesting, like just sit with that. Like, where are you code switching?
Mhm.
And if you're not, or if you think you're not code switching, like, what have you done to create that community of like inclusion so that you feel comfortable that you're not having to code switch? And then
Mhm.
how do I join you? Because that sounds like a wonderful space to be in.
Yeah, inclusion or acceptance, I think, would be the other piece of it, because I think sometimes
Yeah.
we can on like on the surface level way express or maybe experience inclusion, but we may not feel that like deeper or other parts of us might actually be accepted. We still hold on to that. We still hold on to certain pieces. And I think that can also change at different stages of our lives. I know I hear like a lot of women in particular talk about that, like as they get older, as they get into like new decades, that you just care less what other
Yeah.
people think.
Yeah.
Um, but that's not necessarily like in a linear way either. So yeah, everyone's experience is like slightly different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think another thing that I kind of noticed in season one was that our guests came from very different parts and regions
Mhm.
of the globe,
Mhm.
but they were all still kind of experiencing the same issues or
Processes. Yeah.
trying to like work their way through the nuances of immigration and trying to like ground themselves in a new environment. They were all going through that, even though they were coming from different parts of the world. And that kind of just really made me pause and reflect that everybody has their own world going on inside of themselves, and
Themselves.
everybody has a million things going on. But I think if we're able to just take a moment and connect and reflect with each other, then we'll be able to see that there are more things bringing us together
Yeah.
than causing like a divide,
Yeah.
which is I found that really hopeful because
Mhm.
a lot of different regions of the world were explored and discussed in season one, and they are all experiencing very different issues and circumstances, but we're all still trying to achieve the same thing, which is just acceptance for wherever we land, and
Mhm.
then also how to communicate that with other people. So just a little tidbit that I found hopeful
Yeah.
in a pretty gloomy global climate. But yeah,
Mhm.
I was like, okay, this is a nice takeaway.
Yeah. Like what you're referring to is like there's this like undercurrent to
Yeah.
all like human experience across cultures, across places, across time, that we can kind of tap into, and that brings us together, that bridges that gap, as opposed to kind of leading to even more and more and more polarization that we're seeing in not just in the larger world, but within each country, within communities, within families, right? That kind of like the macrocosm, the larger scale being a reflection of the microcosm, the smaller scale of our lives, and vice versa. Like there is that interconnection between all of it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like a big mirror, right?
Yeah.
Like you see what is inside of you, and you're able to kind of connect more with other people once you can see what's inside of them. Like
Yeah.
that's kind of what I ended up with at the end of reviewing and editing season 1 and all of the notes that I was taking. So
Hmm.
yeah, huge shout out to the guests in season
Hmm.
1. Thank you so much. I just wanted to say, like, yeah, just listening to your stories, they were all very moving. And I was able to connect with a piece of everybody's story, which I thought was very surprising for myself. So if that was also something that you were able to do as an audience member listening, let us know. Like, just share in the comments or wherever you want to share that.
A feedback form on our
Yeah,
website
feedback
on the
form.
contact page.
Yeah, on the feedback form, like just let us know. Are there parts of the season 1 episodes that sat with you? Were you surprised by any of those connections? Like, just let us know. We would love to engage in any type of communication, conversation. So yeah, just let us know. Leave a comment, send a feedback form submission. But I think that would be very interesting to see, like, if
Hmm.
anybody else was able to pick up on different pieces of themselves in the episodes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing that we heard a lot from the guests was this experience of something not being enough, either them not feeling enough, or being perceived as not enough in some way, or the experience not being enough in some way. So my question to you, Miranda, is what kind of not enough, quote unquote not enough, follows you the most, do you think?
Yeah. I think I do agree, like that rhetoric of not being enough and trying to figure out, like, okay, it is just enough to be yourself. Like
Mm,
you existing and is
mm,
enough, but that wasn't always something that I knew and understood. And it isn't something that I came to learn just listening to this podcast. Like what kind of not enough follows me the most, I think would have to maybe be like my level of achievement or like
mm.
just striving for achievements. I'm the youngest in a family of 2 other siblings, so 3 siblings in total. And there's about a 10-year age difference between me and my older sister, and an 8-year age difference between me and my brother. So I would,
Significant.
yeah, just a bit, I guess.
Yeah.
Just a decade, no big deal.
Yeah, it puts you in different, it could potentially put you into different generations. I don't think it does in your case,
No,
but yeah.
I think my siblings are like older millennials,
Yeah.
and then I'm at the kind of tail end of
Yeah.
the millennial generation spectrum. So it's very interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like I got the experience of the whole
Millennial
millennial
experience.
experience. So shout out to my siblings. Thank you so much. Great music exposure when I was younger, but I think that also kind of drove me to want to prove myself. I was like the baby of the family. I'm not the shortest, believe it or not, but I
Why is
am.
that important that you're naming it?
I don't know. I just felt the need to. So I'm the youngest.
That's cute.
I was the shortest at one point, and now I'm not the shortest,
Yeah.
but it's like, okay, my achievement is that I grew.
Literally,
Yeah,
physically.
physically. But I think like that isn't the sole reason behind like why I want to like do the things I do, but
Hmm.
I think that feeling of not being enough was a driving factor of like, okay, well, you want to kind of define yourself. You want to set yourself apart from your family members. You want to have a bit of your own experience and your own personality. So
Hmm.
I was like, okay, I'll just read all the time. I read so much, Furuz, that my mom and my dad would tell me to go to bed, and then they would turn the lights off. And I don't know why they thought it was a good idea to get a bed head with a lamp at the top for a girl who loves to read. So they would tell me to go to sleep. And then I'm like, what,
Okay,
like,
bye.
yeah, 10 years old. I put the lamp on and I'm reading, and it's not bright. I'm like ruining my eyes as I'm trying to read Goosebumps books. And then yeah, so here we are today. My eyes are super bad. I still have glasses, can't see without them. So yeah, I think that is how the not enough feeling has showed up.
Mm,
But I think that like that not enough feeling also drives me and pushes me to kind of want to do better. Like there's a curiosity part, but then
Mhm.
there's also like a little like, oh, I'm not enough, so I need to be doing more things. I need to be better. I need to be
Mhm.
improving, right?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, like it sparks ambitions, it sparks maybe dreams and goals and desire for
aspirations.
adventure. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, definitely. I mean, she did, move to Australia, so
Yeah,
one could
that was
argue.
that was a big jump, but yeah, like I mainly moved cuz I think it was a bit too cold in Canada for me.
After the very intense and long winter that we've had this past year of like 2025 into 2026, I understand. Begrudgingly, I understand.
Yeah. It's pretty funny, like, we were making this podcast about growing in between worlds, and as my parents had moved from Guyana to Canada,
Hmm.
and I grew up in Canada in the very long and intense winters,
Hmm.
I would constantly ask my parents, like, "Why did you choose Canada? Why did you come here? It's
Hmm.
so cold." And now that I'm an adult, like, I have the privilege and the ability to choose
Where
where
you
I
want to live?
wanna live. So it's like, okay, well, now I'm gonna leave the snow behind. There's still snow in Australia, believe it or not, but just not where I live.
Not in the parts of
Yeah.
Australia that you live. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I think a lot of people can, I mean, I think they can relate to kind of what you're describing. And I hear it even from a lot of my clients that there is this drive to want to maybe set ourselves apart from our families to a degree to like have our own individuality. But then there's also maybe this drive of wanting to be similar to our family members or community members to kind of experience more of that belonging because
Yeah.
so much of belonging seems to involve similarity,
Mm.
right? And I think a lot of people can then, through that assumption, feel like differences are a threat to belonging, right? And the continuity of a connection, right? And so there are parts of ourselves that we can also hide because we want to be able to continue to like have these similarities with the communities, the families that we're a part of, and experience that belonging. And there are parts of other people that we might try to police and like mitigate or smooth out if we
Yeah,
feel like they're
yeah.
trying to kind of like diverge too much from the
Thanks, but
general
no thanks.
understanding. Yeah. So it's very interesting that was like the example uh, that you use because I've definitely heard it in different ways from different people.
Yeah. And just going back to your point of other individuals sharing that they want to have that similarity aspect as
Hmm.
well, I think a part of the not being enough feeling also wanted or like pushed me to get all of these like achievements and attainments because I wanted to create like a brand for my family name of like,
Hmm.
oh, I want to prove that like we're enough. I want to
Yeah.
showcase that like
It was a
our
successful immigrant
yeah,
story.
or like
Yeah.
yeah, like the sacrifices of my parents like meant something and
Yeah.
they came to fruition through like academic achievements, professional achievements, or
Mhm.
like whatever you want to say. And
Mhm.
this isn't to say like my siblings didn't do anything. Like they're just not on the podcast right now to talk about everything
Their
that they
achievements, yeah.
yeah, so
And
it
everyone's different, right? Like,
yeah.
the point is, like, achievements don't have to look a certain way, I think. We talked about this with some of the guests that in particular kind of like cultures or communities or families, there could be maybe like one dominant definition of achievement or success, but that where we actually find the opportunity to really thrive and be well, um, in widening and broadening that definition of success and achievement to include a lot of different things because not everyone has to do the exact same thing.
Yeah, everybody's your own person.
Yeah.
Everybody is different, and what brings you joy might like irk me beyond belief, right?
Yes. Yes.
So I think it's again, it's like just this season really just showcased the need and I think the underlying desire of people needing to voice how they feel so that spaces can be created so that other people experiencing those same things can come together, right?
Mhm.
You don't know what other people are going through until they say it.
Mhm.
And until you share what's inside your head, nobody's going to know.
Yeah. Yeah. And it takes a lot of like courage to practice that level of like vulnerability to disclose something that we've been holding close to our chest for a long time. And at the same time, that courage, yes, there's a possibility that it might lead to kind of rejection, but there's also a larger possibility that could lead to significant connection and acceptance and belonging that pretty much all of us as human beings are looking for, are yearning for, are needing to be well in our
Yeah.
lives.
And you mentioned like the rejection piece. I know that one thing that I had to tell myself over and over again as I was applying for jobs in Australia,
Right.
it's like rejection is just redirection.
Yes.
And if this is saying no to me, then there's something else waiting, or there's
Hmm.
another opportunity that I'm being like kind of not being held back, but another opportunity is waiting for me. And this isn't the right spot.
Yeah.
So don't be discouraged or don't be deflected if you do get rejected.
Yeah.
It's just maybe redirection,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's a very good reframe. I think it's one that we as therapists we mention a lot to our clients.
Ooh, I'm not even a therapist. I got it. Where's my gold star?
Yeah, it's a good thing for us to remember because like when any form of rejection happens, it's also okay to in that moment be upset, to grieve the vision that you were already starting to build in your head of what this particular experience in this particular place with these particular people was going to be like. And at the same time, kind of be like, okay, like maybe there's something I don't know
Yeah.
yet, right? Like maybe this rejection is actually going to benefit me in some way because maybe if I was accepted, there's other issues in this particular arena
A
that
whole
might
new
not.
door of issues
Yes.
are gonna open up. You
Yes.
just never know,
Exactly.
right? Just being open. Okay. I think in terms of themes that I noticed, it was predominantly the code switching and the not enough, but
Hmm.
that was mainly what I was able to kind of pick apart and notice. But I'm curious, like, you were really in the nitty gritty of it all. You were in the episodes with our guests. You were kind of on the fly sharing these very personal experiences and also receiving personal experiences from the guests. And I think that kind of puts a different lens on your like reflection and just memory of this process. So I'm very curious. Like, we've heard of what I think were the themes that were emerging in season one. But Forouz, what did you notice the most when you were reflecting on season one? And were there any similarities or differences between what we have discussed so far and
Hmm.
things that you kind of want to raise?
That's a good question because I think you're right. We definitely had different experiences because I was very much in the kind of relationship building with the guests and in the conversations, in the moment with the guests and really feeling kind of like in flow with it.
Yeah.
Whereas you were re-listening sometimes like 6, 7 times or more to the same episode,
Or the
right?
same line in a
In the same
paragraph.
episode.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. So for me, like I was very present. I was very like in flow. And sometimes I would leave some of those episodes literally like my body was like vibrating from
Mm,
how emotionally intense in a good way it was, like how like deeply connected it was or like things that it was like waking up inside of me. And sometimes I like literally had to go for a very long brisk walk because like I was just filled
hell.
with so much like energy.
Yeah.
And so that was an interesting thing for me to notice. I think looking back at it, I noticed so much more what was happening emotionally, physiologically, like on a deeper kind of like level of like
For
connection
sure.
than just the kind of intellectual kind of conversation that I was having with folks. But also when I was then listening to the episodes afterwards,
Okay.
because we'd record an episode, Miranda would edit, she would then send me an edited version. I would re-listen.
This is behind the scene, by the way. This is very behind the curtain information that you guys are hearing.
Yes. And then we would send a kind of view only version to our guests to review to make sure that they felt like comfortable with what was going to be
Like,
shared
share,
publicly.
yeah. And just a tidbit, if you are a person in the mental health field and you are thinking about being a guest on our podcast, we do allow you to review your
Yes.
episode in totality and send back any notes for revisions if you do want to exclude anything.
Yeah.
So I think this is a really good segue to kind of maybe just explain a bit more on
Yeah.
the behind the scenes on what happens if you are a guest, because yes, they are able to kind of do a final sweep
Yes.
of what has been shared in the episode before it's released.
Yes. Even
Yeah.
before we get to the recording of the episode, I meet with the guests. We get to know each other a little bit. They have a lot of even email connection with me. They get a chance to kind of review our very detailed consent form. They get a set of questions, guiding questions that they can choose from. They actually select what will be asked of them, and then they can choose how much or how little they share. They
Yeah.
can pause during the recording to kind of collect themselves if they need to
Take a
change
break.
gears. Yeah, take
Yeah.
a break. So we try to make this um as comfortable and as trauma informed of a process as we can for our guests as well, because we understand that it is a vulnerable and courageous thing for you to be coming on and sharing your story publicly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, for me again, it was very much like me noticing kind of the very like emotional, physiological, relational effect of it. But in re-listening, a few things kind of like stood out to me. I think one of the things that stood out that I think has been sitting with me even since I was young is there's this assumption that like kids are resilient. So they're resilient and they're adaptive, so they're going to be fine, right? That they assimilate really easily and quickly if they are immigrating as kids or teens, or even if they're born into immigrant families. Like there's this assumption that they're resilient, they're adaptive, they assimilate quickly, they will be fine. Yeah. And that has always felt like really dismissive to me, because yes, children are resilient, but they're also like going through significant development. All of these different experiences that they have are forming their brain, like neural pathways, their bodies, like what they learn about social life and human life, and what they learn about themselves, what they learn and expect about other people. And it can be this experience of kind of going through immigration, whether you were a kid or a teenager when you immigrated with family or without them, or even if you were born into an immigrant family. Like
Yeah.
it's a very overstimulating experience. It's a stressful experience, right? And you are exposed often to a lot of adult situations and adult responsibilities from a young age. And that has impacts on your physiology. It impacts on your mental health, on your well-being. It has impacts on the choices that you make across your life, right? And we heard that from the guests this season, and we're almost done recording season 2, and we're hearing that from the season 2 guests as well
Yes.
in
It
different
keeps
ways.
coming back up.
It keeps coming back up. And I think what a lot of the elders in immigrant communities, and even I think elders in the host culture or people in the host culture, don't understand is that the kids and teens immigrating or being born into immigrant families, they didn't consent to that experience, right? Like they didn't make a conscious choice. And I understand that many folks have to kind of flee their countries of origin or communities of origin for a lot of different reasons, often due to like violence and economic situations, environmental crises and geopolitical issues.
There's a lot of different
There's a lot of
reasons
different
people
reasons
leave.
that they have to
Yeah.
leave. And so a lot of these elders who are immigrants felt like they didn't have any other choice but to pack up their whole families and leave.
Yeah.
Um, I think the piece that I'm trying to highlight is that they were still adults. They were making the choice. They were understanding all the different factors of why that choice was important. And yes, they had their own struggles and they suffered through going through that process in many significant and often long lasting ways, but they still had the element of choice, and that actually has an impact. Whereas the kids and the teens, they didn't. They
Yeah.
didn't really have that choice. And not to say that that like ruins everybody's lives. I don't want to be like dramatic in that way, but different people are going to react to that element of that choice being taken away from them in different ways across their life. And they learn to adapt to a new environment because they have to, because also that's like how we're built as human beings. We're built to, in order to survive, is to adapt to a new environment that we're in.
Yeah, adapt or kind of get left behind in a
Yeah.
sense, right? Like that is kind of the human evolution that has kind of happened throughout time. But I think just going back to your point of like the kids being thought of as ultra resilient and then parents or elders moving without gaining, I guess, not really the permission, but just the inclusion of
Mhm.
those children. I
Mhm.
think what I'm hearing you say is like, oh, there was a lack of just communication. There was no like telling or sharing of information with the children. Only the adults need to know what's going on. The kids
Mhm.
will kind of adapt and they'll figure it out along the way, but that's not always true. And sometimes children need a bit more of attention
Mhm.
because there's a lot of change going on. Like, and they don't need the full explanation, but just some explanation, right?
Well, the interesting thing is some people do get that explanation. They are told. They have some level of communication happening between the different generations. Like their parents or elders are describing to them why something is happening. I think the challenge is that that conversation can stop. It doesn't continue as
Mm,
that person continues to grow because if you're having this conversation with a 5-year-old,
yeah, it's
they might
very,
be like, "Okay, I understand." But if you don't continue to have this conversation when they're 7, when they're 10, when they're 15, when they're 20, when they're 30, there's other, you know, as we develop and grow, we gain different insights and understanding, different perspectives on the exact same experience,
yeah,
even from the past, right? So I think in some situations there's no communication, but in a lot of in a lot of situations there actually is some communication. It's just that that communication, that conversation doesn't necessarily continue over
continue.
time.
Yeah,
And sometimes it's because the elders don't want to have to relive that experience
fair enough.
because it was
Yeah,
very traumatic for many of them in different ways for different reasons. And so they don't want to relive it. And so they don't want to kind of engage in that conversation. But then what happens is that those kids, as they grow, they're missing significant pieces of the puzzle to
yeah,
understand themselves and their own like lineage and heritage and ancestry. And the human brain is built to kind of fill in the gaps that it doesn't understand. Either we create our own narratives or we go searching for other people's narratives to help to fill that gap, right?
yeah.
A lot of folks kind of like do a lot of research or maybe genealogy if that's available, and that's not necessarily available to
Ready
everybody and to
or
all, in all parts of the world.
yeah,
But then some people also perhaps might be doing it through conversations like we've been having with our guests or through this podcast. Who knows, right? But that that element, I felt really strongly about naming that.
yes. It seems like a very painful process
Mhm.
to not be able to share as an elder, like what has transpired, but then also as a child. And as you grow up and become a child of adult immigrants, like not being able to name certain parts of the journey or understand parts of your family dynamic. Like it just seems like there's unfortunately a lot of pain intertwined in this whole part that you're speaking about, which I think is also important to talk about because it's not all like fun and games,
Mhm.
right? Like, this is a very serious and intentional thing that people are doing in their lives.
Immigrating, you mean?
Immigrating,
Yep.
yes. So it's going to come with a lot of highs and with a lot of lows,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. Especially because it's a complete step into the unknown,
Yes.
right? Like, you're taking a huge leap of faith when you're immigrating, even in the most, like, privileged circumstances in which you could be immigrating, you're still taking a huge leap of faith. You're stepping into the unknown. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of things that you have to kind of figure out on the fly.
Yeah, how will I be received in this new space? Like, will there be opportunities for me?
Mhm.
How will those opportunities be different from the ones I'm leaving behind? Like, how do I how do I grow my community from scratch again? How do I find people that like look like me and that are part of my culture? And then how do you keep your culture alive while also trying to like ingest the new culture that you're in? Like there's a
Mhm.
lot. I just named off like maybe 7 questions off the top of my head. Like there's
Yeah.
probably so many more,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. Yeah. So I think like that's why it's important to like continue to have these conversations.
Yeah.
Because it's important. I think often what happens is we might talk about the who, the what, and the where and the when, but the how and the why are actually so much more important to our lives and to who we are as human beings because it's such a significant part of meaning making,
Yeah.
right? That the how and the why, the answers to those questions are actually how we make meaning of what happened and are able to experience a sense of closure, and be able to integrate what has happened into who we are now and the steps that we take forward.
Yeah. And that goes back to the communication piece, right?
Hmm.
Like just keeping that communication active throughout the years, not just when the immigration is happening or whatever situation at the moment is happening,
Mhm.
right? So
Mhm.
it's very interesting. I love that insight that you were able to kind of
Yeah.
pick apart, and hopefully as we move through the rest of season 2, because we're almost done season 2 recording, but I'm very curious to see if the kind of like kiddo sentiment will kind of reemerge or remain in season 2. Well, we'll have to
Like the
stay tuned.
experience, like they're the little kids inside of our guests that you mean are maybe wanting to kind of talk sometimes for the first
No,
time?
no, like the whole insight that you were able to point out of like the children being thought of as resilient
Uh-huh.
and the attention not being kind of like given to them
Yeah.
in pieces throughout their lives.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious to see if that will be shared and spoken about as we continue
Yeah.
interviewing guests. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you
Sounds
so much.
interesting.
That was really interesting.
Mhm.
I didn't pick up on that. So I think this is why it's great. You have the nuance of seeing the intricacies of the conversations because you're in it. And then I have that external view. So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Yeah. We want to share some of the informal feedback that we've been receiving so far, and we're going to share them anonymously with you folks as they've been kind of coming through from community members to us.
Yeah. So we've printed off some. So if you're watching on YouTube or wherever, you'll see us reading from a script, but we've just printed off some of the feedback that we've gotten. So we'll just kind of do it back and forth, but I'll start us off. So again, anonymous. So don't worry, we won't name drop you. But some feedback that we've received so far, it's a blend of different sentiments and comments that have been fed to us, and we've kind of just worked it together. So to kick us off, this podcast is so welcoming, warm, and honest. It's exceptionally informative and very interesting. I couldn't believe how natural, real, comforting, deep, and scientific that this podcast is, but without sounding too academic or feeling like a boring classroom. That's good. That's good feedback for us, I think.
Yes. Yes. That's helpful.
It's now something I look forward to each Wednesday. Aw, that's really sweet. I also look forward to it on Wednesday, but mainly I'm just stressed to see that it's been
It's
launched
not, yes, publishes.
successfully. Yeah. Okay, so this is something that they look forward to each Wednesday, and I'm already looking forward to future episodes and seasons. That was really sweet. Thank
Yeah,
you. Thank you for those
that was
pieces of
really lovely.
feedbacks. Yeah.
Yeah. We've had other folks say, as a child of an immigrant family, it's so beautiful to hear about other stories. And it's always refreshing when I get to talk to people who understand what it feels like to grow up between cultures.
Another one that we've received. Sorry, that's like getting a cramp in my toe.
Oh, no, you're okay.
I'm fine. Those are okay. It's like a ghost cramp. What? It's like the cramp is about to start, but then it fades away,
Oh,
so you
yeah,
don't
okay.
actually get the cramp.
I'm learning a lot.
Okay. This is a quote. As a white woman, the spouse of an immigrant and a therapist to many immigrants with so many stories, I didn't know how absent immigrant stories were until I became so interwoven in them myself. I
Yeah.
think that just speaks to the representation piece, right? Like,
Yeah.
you just don't know what you don't know. Creating a space where we're able to allow people in the mental health field to share their stories, I
Mhm.
think is just broadening other people's horizons as well, which is what we've saw in this comment. So thank you for
Yeah.
this.
Thank you. Another one is, as a Canadian born person who grew up in a diverse suburb of Toronto, Canada, I had the unique privilege of being surrounded by people of all backgrounds for my whole life. As a child and teen, I never thought there was anything special about that setting, but now as an adult, I have grown to cherish how unique that experience was and how it shaped me into the person I am. I have learned so much empathy and grace from friends and colleagues who are navigating the immigrant experience, yet I know I have so much left to understand. That was really well put. I love
Yeah.
that.
And I really like how they ended that comment. Like, there's still so much.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
there's so many pieces that you and I have yet to touch upon that we probably haven't even thought of because
Yeah.
this is like a limitless kind of experience.
Mhm.
It
There's
doesn't
even
really
so much
end.
for us to learn,
Yeah.
right? Like, because our experiences and even the thing the experience that we've been exposed to so far in our lives don't capture the whole story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all a piece of a larger puzzle,
Mhm.
right? Okay, the next one that we have says, I never thought of living in two cultures. As a first generation immigrant born outside of our homeland and brought up in the English culture, Guyanese was never part of my younger years until I was introduced to more family later on. That's when I learned and began to understand our Guyanese heritage.
Can you relate to that?
I don't think so. I
No.
think I have a lot of luck and privilege in being born into a family that had a lot of ties to Guyanese culture.
And part of, like, a larger Guyanese community in
Yes.
Toronto.
Like on my dad's side, like maybe 21st cousins. And I can't even
All here in Canada?
yes,
Oh, wow.
all here in Canada, and my mom's side is still in Guyana, and I can't even count how many first cousins there are on that side. Like, it's just such a large community
Mm,
that I was born into. So
mm.
I really felt for this comment where Guyanese was never part of their younger years and they were only introduced to more family later on. Like, I feel like a lot of my childhood memories are of spending time with cousins and other relatives, family friends, like playing at parks, at a family barbecue, or
Mhm.
at Christmas gatherings. We would always go to one of my dad's uncle's place, and that was the Christmas Eve event, and it was just so nice to know you were going to be seeing this side of the family. Like, I really felt for this comment because that's such a staple part of my memories.
That this person missed out on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and again, like they just didn't know until they were introduced to it later
Mhm.
on. I'm glad that they now get to experience it.
I wonder what that integration process was like for this person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I w- Probably a bit of a culture shock.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if they were growing up in English culture.
Yeah.
Like there are some similarities between like British monarchy and then Guyanese kind of like architecture. And they also drive on the left side of the road, similar to the English. So,
Oh, and in Australia.
and in Australia. So
I almost died multiple times trying to cross the road in Australia a few months ago.
you just kept looking the other way
I
first.
just couldn't get it. Was not My brain was not processing it at all.
If it makes you feel any better, I'm back in Toronto and I am very like hesitantly driving. And it throws me in the plaza parking lots. I'm like, what side am I supposed to be on? Is it the left? Is it the right? And then when you have a car that's parked in the wrong spot, it just like throws everything off.
Yeah. Yeah. I bet I would not even attempt to drive. After I saw that I couldn't even cross the road, I was like, yeah, no, it's not happening. I would never be able to rent a car and drive it in any country that drives on the other side of the
No,
road.
I got you. When you visit, I'll drive you. Don't
Okay,
worry.
good.
Uh,
Yeah.
okay, you want to take us into our next comment?
Yeah. So the next comment we had is, in listening to your podcast, I realized that sometimes we unintentionally prevent each other from growing freely, and sometimes we unintentionally harm each other across generations.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a different comment than what we've previously read out loud.
Mhm.
I really like sometimes we unintentionally harm each other. I don't know why that's really sitting with me, but
Yeah, because I think if we think about, like, the experience of elders, or their intentions behind what they were doing or saying to us as the kids or teens, in the new kind of host culture and country, it's good to know that from what I'm getting from this comment is, like, there wasn't any malintent. Like, they didn't mean harm.
yes, unintentional,
They
right?
may have caused small or significant harm, and that still matters. Like, the impact is definitely very, very important, and it's also, I think, good to be able to know and to acknowledge, like, there wasn't malintent. Maybe they didn't know any better based on the information, the resources, the
Everything that
supports,
they were also going through at
their
the
own
time.
capacity.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, like, they were trying to do the best that they can, um, with what they had. Um Unfortunately, for better or worse, didn't land the way that they had intended on the kids and the teens.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that feedback. I think
Yeah.
it's important to also name that and acknowledge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, last piece of feedback that we're going to share actually stems from a piece in our episode 1 opener.
Mhm.
That story I told about not really understanding where frogs came from and then learning about the like miracle of tadpoles.
They don't live in drains.
They
Well, not
don't. Yeah.
always.
So this is a comment that we received. A funny childhood story was shared with us in connection to my childhood story, back from season 1, episode 1. And this person has shared with us that we were told babies were brought by airplanes. So we would often yell, "Airplane, please bring a baby for us," when a plane was passing overhead. Oh my gosh. I just like, first of all, the airplane has taken the job of the stork.
Next generation really involved in technology
Yeah.
has an impact.
Can't keep up with technology. But this just so sweet. Like, it just really goes back to show that like kid logic has no rhyme or reason,
Mhm.
and you just see something or you hear something
I mean, they
once.
were told this.
They were told.
Let's be clear.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
were told this.
They were told. Okay, honestly, that was probably like the whole situation of like, how did you let this happen with your mom and
Yes.
her
Defense
becoming pregnant? Yeah,
yes.
like a pill made her pregnant
Yes.
and the airplanes brought the baby. So
Yes. We have so many airplanes flying now. I'm wondering if this particular reason is why we're at close to 8 billion people on the planet.
just fast track baby deliveries.
Yes.
Like the storks have now gone out of work.
Or even that every time a plane passes over that you wish for a baby.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people.
And is it like a plane full of babies or is it one baby per plane?
I feel like that's just not efficient. That's like the environmental impacts of that are real bad.
I know, but babies are so cute.
Yeah, but you're gonna put one baby on an entire plane?
No.
I
I mean, like, is one airplane delivering one baby as like a stork would, or if they thought airplane, please bring us a baby, meant that that entire airplane was just full of babies.
Maybe the airplanes were just the gatherers of the wishes for babies. I don't know.
Interesting. Okay, well, if you were the person who left us this comment, please let us know the answers to the many questions that we have about the airplane logistics, because we want to know.
All right, let's talk a little bit about season 2.
Okay.
And what we're hoping for. On my end, I'm really hoping to secure our final guest for season 2.
We're almost there.
We are almost done recording.
Yes.
Yeah. So if that's something that interests you, if you are in the mental health field and you're an adult child of immigrants or partnered with one, we would love to hear from you and include you as a guest on our podcast. You can always go to our website, roambetweenworlds.com, onto our contact page where you can complete our very brief and easy online application form, and we will be in touch with you soon. So that's my main thing that I'm hoping for season 2, but I'm also really hoping that the podcast continues to reach more and more people who are connected to immigrant communities and histories, and that we kind of naturally have growth and can share this wonderful community and the wisdom that's coming through it with folks that are needing to hear it.
Yeah, I think in terms of like the community building, that is a really big piece that I am hopeful for season 2, just being able to create more space on the interwebs, on the airwaves of open, honest communication, talking about things that aren't necessarily in the public domain of dialogue or that we think are acceptable, that we have to like not talk about things or talk about things in a very like nuanced way. I just want to be able to create a space, and it's not even me creating this space. I just want to say that it's you creating this space with our guests, and you have been doing a fantastic job in season 1. So I know that that space will continue to be available, and I'm hopeful that it will grow into a more community-based focus of like, okay, there's now a dialogue and people are commenting on the posts and stuff like that. So I think that's
kind of like these conversations can maybe spark new conversations for you folks with friends, with family, with colleagues, like for you to be able to kind of bring this into those like real conversations with the people in your lives. I know I've heard from a few of my clients already that have said that they've shared the podcast with their siblings or with their parents who are like part of immigrant communities, and that they're already starting to like have these conversations themselves, which
That's great.
is fantastic.
Yeah. That's what we want, right?
Yeah. What about you? What are your hopes for season 2 other than I guess, what you've already said?
Yeah. Yeah, I kinda jumped the gun there. I kinda was like, "I'm so excited for season 2. I can't contain myself. I'm
You won't
sorry.
even wait for me to finish,
I'm
Miranda.
sorry." I'm sorry. Obviously, the number one thing I want for season 2 are more bloopers. What are you talking about?
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Um,
In case anyone's wondering, I am not looking forward to Miranda's collection of quote unquote blooper reels. I don't even know what they mean or look like. So I don't know. We'll
and
see.
and this is not to scare any of the past or
Particularly the
future.
guests.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
No, it's
No,
probably
no.
going to be mostly of me, which will make my spouse extremely happy because that is his number one thing is just seeing anything ridiculous and silly
Oh,
about
don't
me.
worry. I fumble a lot too. So I'll be in there as well. You got to make fun of yourself a bit too. So yeah, I'm obviously looking forward to the blooper reel or just like more content for that. And then I don't know if this is a personal thing or if it's something that you also experience and share, but not wanting to one up ourselves.
Mm.
Like we were able to create all of this content for season 1, and we were able to have all of these really open, honest conversations with our guests. And I don't want us to feel like we need to be pressured to go above and beyond. Like I'm really happy with the quality of the content that we're creating, and I want to remain consistent. So I guess a hope for season 2 is just consistency for what we've been able to create. And then obviously the goal is always to do better, but I don't think the objective of this project is to one up every season.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially because our goal was never for it to be kind of like this sensationalized thing, right? That it was meant to be very grounded, very real. And that includes us. This project is something that's so important to us and it's so close to our hearts. And it has to also be sustainable for us, right? We want to be able to continue it for as long as we can. And so one-upping ourselves every season is not going to allow us to do that because we have full-time jobs and
a 14-hour time difference.
And 14, sometimes 15 with the, with the daylight savings here. So we work across continents and oceans together.
But yeah, I think that's it for season 2. Like really, really excited to share what we have already recorded with the audience. I think there's a lot of great conversations that are going to be hitting the airwaves as we launch season 2, which is coming out
in October 2026.
October 2026. So you don't have to wait too long.
Yeah.
We'll give you guys the summer. Go have your fun. And then our podcast will resume in the fall of 2026. Yeah.
Well, summer in the northern hemisphere, winter in the southern where you are now.
Yeah. So just depends where you are.
Yes. We also really want to take this opportunity to thank some folks. I want to begin by thanking my younger brother because he had encouraged me to do a podcast years ago. Not this particular podcast or this particular topic, but he had really believed in me and wanted me to start a podcast and to just kind of talk and share. I guess because he knows I'm already jabberbox. God forbid I stop talking. So he's like, you might as well just share it with the world.
Natural
so annoying. Why do we only have to be suffering by it?
Cue podcast.
Yes. So I really appreciate that my brother has believed in me and has encouraged me and has had my back and has been excited for us in this project. And I'm really
very
grateful
kind
to him.
of him.
Yes.
Yeah. And very kind of you. Thank him.
And I also want to thank my spouse as well. He's really been there for me and really supported us in this project and the time that it has taken over the past 9-10 months of us kind of putting what we could into creating this and getting it off the ground. I'm really grateful to him and really appreciative to him for all of his support as well.
Nice.
Yeah. And we also want to take an opportunity to thank all of our season 1 guests, of course, for their openness and their courage and their vulnerability and wisdom. So thank you to Niku Sadarat, Rayon Anton, Tracy Justin Derman, Gio Yokono, Sunyan Kao, and Sandra Borkovic.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I cut you off. I'm so excited. I can't wait. Sorry, go on.
My conversations with each of them were so deeply nourishing and healing and fulfilling for me in ways that I really didn't even expect. And I really felt in my body and in my bones that I am not alone in the experience that I've had as an adult child of immigrants. So thank you for that. And I really hope that this also rings true for the audience as well, as they've listened or watched our first season. And we hope that our audience is just as excited as we are for season 2 as well.
Yeah.
And our hope is that over time we'll be able to draw on the wisdom that comes through each episode of our podcast to be able to create guidebooks and other resources to support adult children of immigrants and the people who love and support them. And of course, I really want to give a big thank you to Miranda for coming on this journey with me.
Hi.
For being so supportive and so encouraging throughout the entire production of season 1 and 2, and for allowing us the space to kind of feel through and see what this podcast wanted to become. So thank you for that. In particular, I wanted to thank her for her excellent editing skills, which she learned for the first time ever and very, very quickly just for this podcast. So fantastic new achievement and
I
thing that
know.
you've learned. And also all of your efforts in getting the word out about our podcast. She really takes the lead on our social media stuff because I'm a millennial, but I'm a very old soul, which includes in the web sphere. So I'm grateful to you to be able to like
balance
it out, figure out social media in a different way for us. This has definitely been a labor of love for us. And as we've said, we have been working on this for months.
Yeah.
Across oceans, across continents, across time zones. And it has been really lovely to share this with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was very sweet. And it's been very, very fulfilling to work on this project with you too. Like, this wasn't just podcast season for me. Like, just kind of editing and sitting with these conversations, hearing people and all of the guests, including yourself, kind of articulate things that I didn't necessarily have the names for, or even just, again, hearing people share experiences that I thought that I was just going through alone is like, I'm getting goosebumps right now, just even talking about it. Like, it just really brought a sense of community and closeness. And I just want to thank you for like hosting all of these wonderful people that were on our season 1 and will be on season 2, and just being able to be vulnerable with them, because it's not an easy thing. And taking the time to like build those relationships with them, like, just like, I'm clapping. I'm going to clap for you. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot of work that the audience just hears, right? They hear the finished, polished episode. They just see the content creation online. And this isn't like we're like tooting our own horn or anything. Like, we want to be very transparent with the production of the podcast and what goes into it. And you also trusted me with all of these little different aspects and big aspects, and it's personal, it's layered, it's political, it's emotional. Like, it's like a spider web of like nuances, and you trusted me with that, and I don't take it lightly. So I just want to say thank you as well. And it's been really fun trying to figure things out with you, and then also build a new skill and then use it like ASAP. That was really kind of fulfilling on my end. And for everybody who shared their stories, for the guests that shared the stories, for the comments that we got, for the feedback that we received, thank you for your honesty. Thank you for your language, for your courage to share those stories, to share those little feedback pieces about like airplanes bringing babies and frogs living in drains. Like, you are what gave this season depth. We are just the medium for your stories, and we couldn't have done this without you. So to everyone listening as well, thank you for being part of the audience. Thanks for being here in our conversations. Thank you for wanting to sit with the uneasiness and the messiness of the things and topics that we're talking about. I think like it's required, it's necessary, and it's also really hard to do. So just a huge kudos if you've made it to the end of season 1.
Yes. Congratulations to you.
Congrats.
Thanks for coming along the journey with us.
And I think, just this has meant a lot more than I expected from when we first started to where we are now. So
yeah, me too.
A lot of thanks to everybody. Yeah.
Oh, that's very sweet. That's very sweet. Okay, so we want to leave our audience with a few reflection questions for you to kind of just percolate on between season 1 and season 2. So, for our audience members who are adult children of immigrants, the questions we want to leave with you are: when it comes to code switching, what does your body tend to do first before your mind has words for it? And our second question that we're leaving for you is: what kind of not enough follows you the most in your life right now? For folks who are partnered with immigrants, the question we want to leave you with is: what might you be assuming about your immigrant partner's identities, experiences, and needs instead of asking them about it first? For mental health professionals who are audience members, our questions are: what have you expected your immigrant clients to explain to you about their identities and experiences, even if you haven't been consciously aware of it? And if you are yourself an immigrant in the mental health field, where have you felt that you've had to explain things about your background or experiences in your work with your clients or in your interactions with colleagues, which took emotional bandwidth from you?
Some great questions. I hope that those listening take those with them and
Mm-hmm.
kind of sit and reflect and are able to come back to season 2 to hear how others are going to be kind of moving through these pieces as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that wraps up the season 1 conclusion. This has been a surreal and really inspiring journey, and
Mhm.
I just want to thank you and thank everyone for growing with us, for growing between worlds with us. It's been an honor and pleasure to share these stories and this emerging community with all of you. Please don't forget to go to grownbetweenworlds.com. You can join our newsletter there. You can stay up to date about season 2. And if you're more curious about becoming a guest, you
Mhm.
can put in a submission form. If you have more feedback, if you want to share a little personal story or tidbit to be read out loud, feel free to share any of that in our feedback form at grownbetweenworlds.com. We would love to hear from you. So if you want to keep your feedback anonymous, you can do that. If you want to include your name, you can do that as well. You can do all of that through our contact page on our website. And as I mentioned before, we're always looking for new guests.
Yep.
So if that interests you and you're an adult child of immigrants or their non-immigrant partner and you're in the mental health field, you can take a look at our brief guest application form on our website at grownbetweenworlds.com/contact.
And until next time, take good care of yourselves, and we will see you all in October for season 2.
See you in October.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thanks again for listening or watching this episode of Grown Between Worlds. We're grateful to share this space and community with you.
Please follow or subscribe to our podcast, share it with people who might resonate, join our newsletter for more info and resources, leave us a comment if you'd like, and join us again for future episodes. And remember, your story matters, your voice matters, and you're not alone. Grown Between Worlds is sponsored by Forouz Salari Online Counseling and Consulting.